Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, retold in words of one syllable, by Mrs. J. C. Gorham. Alice in Wonderland. Chapter 5. A Cat-Er-Pil-Lar tells Alice what to do. The Cat-Er-Pil-Lar looked at Alice, and she stared at it, but did not speak. At last, it took the pipe from its mouth and said, "Who are you?" Alice said, "I'm not sure, sir, who I am just now. I know who I was when I left home, but I think I have been changed 2 or 3 times since then." "What do you mean by that?" asked the Cat-Er-Pil-Lar. "I fear I can't tell you, for I'm sure I don't know myself, but to change so many times all in one day makes one's head swim." "It doesn't," said the Cat-Er-Pil-Lar. "Well, maybe you haven't found it so yet," said Alice, "but when you have to change, you will someday, you know. I should think you'd feel it queer, won't you?" "Not a bit," said the Cat-Er-Pil-Lar. "Well, you may not feel as I do," said Alice. "All I know is, it feels queer to me to change so much." "You," said the Cat-Er-Pil-Lar with its nose in the air. "Who are you?" Which brought them back to the point from which they started. Alice was not pleased at this, so she said in as stern a voice as she could, "I think you ought to tell me who you are first." "Why?" said the Cat-Er-Pil-Lar. As Alice could not think what to say to this, and as it did not seem to want to talk, she turned away. "Come back," said the Cat-Er-Pil-Lar. "I have something to say to you." Alice turned and came back. "Keep your temper," said the Cat-Er-Pil-Lar. "Is that all?" asked Alice, while she hid her anger as well as she could. "No," said the Cat-Er-Pil-Lar. Alice waited what seemed to her a long time, while it sat and smoked but did not speak. At last, it took the pipe from its mouth, and said, "So you think you're changed, do you?" "I fear I am, sir," said Alice. "I don't know things as I once did, and I don't keep the same size, but a short while at a time." "What things is it you don't know?" "Well, I've tried to say the things I knew at school, but the words all came wrong." "Let me hear you say, 'You are old, Father William,'" said the Cat-Er-Pil-Lar. Alice folded her hands, and began, "You are old, Father William," the young man said, "and your hair has become very white, and yet you stand all the time on your head. Do you think, at your age, it is right?" "In my youth," Father William then said to his son, "I feared it might injure the brain, but now that I know full well I have none, why, I do it again and again." "You are old," said the youth. "Shall I tell you once more?" "And are now quite as large as a tun, yet you turned a back somerset in at the door. Pray, tell me now, how was that done?" "In my youth," said the sage, as he shook his grey locks, "I kept all my limbs very supple by the use of this ointment. 1 shilling the box. Allow me to sell you a cooler." "You are old," said the youth, "and your jaws are too weak for anything tougher than suet, yet you ate up the goose, with the bones and the beak. Pray, how did you manage to do it?" "In my youth," said his father, "I took to the law and argued each case with my wife, and the very great strength, which it gave to my jaw, has lasted the rest of my life." "You are old," said the youth. "One would hardly suppose that your eye was as steady as ever, yet you balance an eel on the end of your nose. What makes you always so clever?" "I have replied to 3 questions, and that is enough," said the father. "Don't give yourself airs. Do you think I can listen all day to such stuff? Be off, or I'll kick you downstairs." "That is not said right," said the Cat-Er-Pil-Lar. "Not quite right, I fear," said Alice. "Some of the words are changed." "It is wrong from first to last," said the Cat-Er-Pil-Lar, then did not speak for some time. At last it said, "What size do you want to be?" "Oh, I don't care so much as to size, but one doesn't like to change so much, you know." "I don't know," it said. Alice was too much vexed to speak, for she had never, in all her life, been talked to in that rude way. "Do you like your size now?" asked the Cat-Er-Pil-Lar. "Well, I'm not quite so large as I would like to be," said Alice. 3 inches is such a wretched height to be." "It is a good height, indeed," said the Cat-Er-Pil-Lar, and reared itself up straight as it spoke. "It was just 3 inches high." "But I'm not used to it," pleaded poor Alice. And she thought, "I wish the things wouldn't be so easy to get mad." "You'll get used to it in time," the Cat-Er-Pil-Lar said, and put the pipe to its mouth, and Alice waited till it should choose to speak. At last it took the pipe from its mouth, yawned once or twice, then got down from its perch and crawled off in the grass. As it went it said, "One side will make you tall, and one side will make you small. One side of what? Thought Alice to herself. Of the mushroom, said the Cat-Er-Pil-Lar, just as if it had heard her speak. Soon it was out of sight. Alice stood and looked at the mushroom a long time and tried to make out which were the two sides of it. As it was round, she found this a hard thing to do. At last she stretched her arms round it as far as they would go, and broke off a bit of the edge with each hand. And now which is which? She said to herself, and ate a small piece of the right hand bit, to try what it would do. The next moment she felt her chin strike her foot with a hard blow. She was in a sore fright at this quick change, but she felt that there was no time to be lost as she was shrinking so fast. So she set to work at once to eat some from the left hand bit. "Come, my head's free at last," said Alice, with great joy, which changed to fear when she found that her waist and hands were nowhere to be seen. All she could see when she looked down was a vast length of neck, which seemed to rise like a stalk out of a sea of green leaves that lay far below her. "What can all that green stuff be?" said Alice. "And where has my waist got to? And oh, my poor hands, how is it I can't see you?" She moved them as she spoke. The green leaves shook as if to let her know her hands were there, but she could not see them. As there seemed to be no chance to get her hands up to her head, she tried to get her head down to them and was pleased to find that her neck would bend about like a snake. Just as she had curved it down and meant to dive in the sea of green, which she found was the tops of the trees neath which she had been walking, a sharp hiss made her draw back in haste. A large bird had flown into her face and struck her with its wings. "Snake! Snake!" screamed the bird. "I'm not a snake," said Alice. "Let me alone." "Snake, I say, snake!" cried the bird, then added with a kind of sob, "I've tried always, but I cannot suit them." "I don't know what you mean," said Alice. The bird seemed not to hear her, but went on, "I've tried the roots of trees, and I've tried banks, and I've tried a hedge, but those snakes, there's no way to please them. As if it were not hard work to hatch the eggs, but I must watch for snakes night and day. Why, I haven't had a wink of sleep these 3 weeks." "It's too bad for you to be so much put out," said Alice, who began to see what it meant. "And just as I had built my nest in this high tree," the bird went on, raising its voice to a shriek, "and just as I thought I should be free of them at last, they must needs fall down from the sky. Ugh, snake!" "But I'm not a snake, I tell you," said Alice. I'm a, well, what are you?" said the bird. "I can see you will not tell me the truth." I'm a little girl," said Alice, though she was not sure what she was when she thought of all the changes she had gone through that day. "I've seen girls in my time, but none with such a neck as that," said the bird. No, you're a snake, and there's no use to say you're not. I guess you'll say next that you don't eat eggs." "Of course I eat eggs," said Alice, "but girls eat eggs quite as much as snakes do, you know." "I don't know," said the bird, "but if they do, why then they're a kind of snake. That's all I can say." This was such a new thing to Alice that at first she did not speak, which gave the bird a chance to add, "You want eggs now? I know that quite well. But I don't want eggs, and if I did I shouldn't want yours. I don't like them raw." "Well, be off, then," said the bird as it sat down in its nest. Alice crouched down through the trees as well as she could, for her neck would twist round the boughs, and now and then she had to stop to get it off. At last, she thought of the mushroom in her hands, and set to work with great care, to take a small bite first from the right hand, then from the left, till at length she brought herself down to the right size. It was so long since she had been this height, that it felt quite strange, at first, but she soon got used to it. "Come, there's half my plan done now," she said. "How strange all these things are. I'm not sure 1 hour, what I shall be the next. I'm glad I'm back to my right size. The next thing is, to get into that garden. How is that to be done, I should like to know?" As she said this, she saw in front of her a small house, not more than 4 feet high. "Who lives there?" thought Alice. "It'll not do at all to come upon them this size. Why, I should scare them out of their wits." So she ate some of the right hand bit again and did not dare to go near the house till she had brought herself down to 9 inches high. Chapter 5 ends here. Thank you very much for listening. Subscribe our channel for more. Click bell button to get notification and give thumbs up if you like my work.